and welcome back to the AusCannaPodcast. I'm your host, Christina McMullen. On today's show, my guest is someone who's not just raising his voice, he's raising awareness and driving real change for veterans across Australia. Former Australian Defence Force member Derek Pyrah is the founder of No More Zombie Veterans, a grassroots campaign advocating for veterans living with treatment-resistant PTSD and traumatic brain injuries. After years of being overmedicated and undersupported by the very system meant to care for him, Derek discovered plant-based medicine, and with it, he found hope, healing, and purpose. Now, he's on a mission to ensure no other veteran is left behind in a broken system. In this episode, we explore Derek's lived experience with PTSD, the damaging side effects of long-term psychiatric meds, and the healing power of cannabis. This is a conversation about resilience, reform, and the real impact of giving people access to the tools they need to heal. Before we jump in, a touch of housekeeping. You can now support the show by heading over to buymeacoffee.com/AusCannaPodcast. Whether it's shouting me a coffee or grabbing a limited edition cargo can, my cannabis storage collaboration with Canescape. Every bit helps keep independent cannabis journalism alive and thriving. Also, if you've got a great rapid-fire question for a future guest, send it through to AusCannaReviews@gmail.com with your name and address. If I use it on air, I'll send a little goodie pack your way as a thank you. All right, you know what time it is. Load your vape, get comfy, and let's get into it. Okay, sir, are you ready?
Yes, Christina.
All right, let's do
Right.
it.
Okay.
What's something you're really good at but never talk about?
I have no clue, to be honest.
You don't have a secret talent?
I can wiggle my nose and my ears, but I don't tell anyone.
I wish. Again, should be doing video because now I want
Video.
to see it. I want to
Okay,
see
ready?
it. Oh my God, you're so... I love it.
Hang on, here's the ears. Ready?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. I do wish we were doing video. I genuinely do.
There you
But
go. All
that's
your followers missed that one.
they did, because that's some good wiggle with it, sir.
Thank you.
If your thoughts had a soundtrack, what genre would they be?
More than likely a mixture of techno, some reggae, and a bit of thrash.
I like it. If time wasn't real, how would you measure a moment?
Wow. Yeah, I can't answer that one off the top of my head. How would I measure a moment? By the experience of it.
Yeah, I went with once a feeling faded. Like when when you're in a moment, there's you no matter whether the moment is good or bad, you have a feeling. So
Yeah.
once that feeling, whatever it is, fades, the moment is over. What was your dream job as a kid?
Working on aircraft or building rocket ships, something like that.
I love it. If you had a warning label, what would it say?
Don't provoke.
I think a lot of people need warning labels like that. When was the last time you did something mundane that felt magical?
About 2 days ago. The surf was too big for me anyway, so I was watching a couple of young dudes getting smashed in it, and Yeah, it was just nice experience sitting there doing something mundane, watching other people getting smashed by big waves.
I'm a big fan of people watching. I love it.
Yeah.
What's your guilty pleasure song?
I wouldn't have a clue. I've never thought about having a guilty pleasure song. Yeah, I'd have to pass on that one.
Really? You don't have anything that, like, you maybe sing in the shower that you'd be slightly embarrassed if somebody heard you singing?
Oh, yeah, probably Eurythmics.
What song? I'm a big Eurythmics fan.
That Sweet Dreams Are Made of These.
Yeah, yeah,
No, yeah.
yeah. Oh, Annie Lennox, fabulous. Um, First time you tried cannabis, where were you and what happened?
I think first time I tried, I was in my late teens. Obviously recreational trying back then. What happened? Just had the normal effect of cannabis, I guess. But back then it would have been homegrown, no chemical cannabis, like healthy stuff.
Green market. I like to call that green market.
Oh, yeah, green market, cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's not black market. It was grown with a little bit of love, so that's green market. What's a phrase your parents said that still echoes in your head?
Ooh, nothing really. I think most of my childhood got sort of blacked out a bit. Probably from my mum's, just keep trying, don't give up.
I like it. It's very positive. Keep trying.
Yeah.
What was your first rebellion?
Leaving home at 15 and joining the military and signing a 9-year contract.
That's a pretty I don't want to say that's a I don't know if I'd call that a rebellion, but that's definitely causing your life to spin in a different direction, for sure. For sure. If your spirit had a terpene profile, what would it smell like?
Oh, a mixture in between sandalwood and coconut.
Oh, and coconut, huh?
Yeah, I've got a fan. Just recently, the coconut incense smell has really got me. I'm normally a sandalwood person, so if there was a terpene flavor profile, it'd be a mixture of those two.
I like it. It's earthy yet almost
Refreshing.
summery. Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it. Listener submitted question coming from Cody in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And it sounds like we're settling an argument for him.
Okay.
And he wants to know, is winging it actually a form of performance art?
Wow, it's a bit outside my area of expertise. Is winging it a form of performance art? Yeah, I think in Australian culture, yeah, it is. Because some of the most inspirational performances and work can come out of just winging it. Just get in there, do it, see what happens.
I'm with you 100%. When I read the question, I was like, oh, absolutely. And I don't know if it would be considered winging it, but what's his name? Stephen Bradbury comes to mind.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he coined the phrase, pulling a Bradbury.
Yeah, yeah. And again, I don't want to say that he was winging it, but
Yeah.
he was kind of winging it. He just kept going with that.
Yeah, he was in last place. Suddenly he's in first place.
Yeah, bringing home the gold in speed skating. I will, for those listeners that don't know, I'll absolutely drop that in the show notes because doing a Bradbury, man.
Mm.
Very last question. Is cereal a soup?
No. No, soups are generally a healthy thing. Cereals are basically a sugar-based,
I don't know. It's like this is an internal struggle with me because I'm with you. I want to say, oh no, it's cereal and cereal is totally different. But what defines soup as soup?
For me, soup would be something that's been cooked for starters. Unprocessed, so natural ingredients. For me and the way I eat and cook, it's as organic as possible. A lot of animal fats, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fibers, natural proteins and flavors. So for me, yeah, soup is a healthy choice. It's something that's tasty. And over here in Australia, I guess, cereal is always a breakfasty morning thing that's sugar with something or other. Like it's, generally a popular thing that's unhealthy.
I love it because that was almost the exact argument I gave my teenager, who countered back with gazpacho isn't cooked. It's cold soup. If you have not had gazpacho, it's fabulous. It's almost like it's like a cold tomato soup, basically.
Okay.
It's fabulous though.
Is it served cold or it's made cold?
Yeah, it's served cold.
That it's made?
Yeah. No,
Okay,
it's
cool.
not. It's all cold. I will again drop the recipe that we use here at home in the show notes. But yeah, like I said, it was an interesting conversation to have with him over soup and cereal. Derek, it was an absolute pleasure.
Oh, likewise.
For those who don't know anything about you, Derek, do you mind giving us a brief introduction?
For sure, Christina. My name is Derek Pyrah. I am an Air Force veteran from Australia. And joined the military when I was 15, served in Iraq, exited the military when I was about 30, I think it was, due to PTSD from Iraq. And following Iraq, I started the normal medication regime for mental health for PTSD. Traumatic brain injury is a similar medication regime, psych medications and hospitalization. That ended up for me in 17 years of heavy psych med usage, which did no favors for my body, made my condition worse. I was married back then, and there wasn't really a good prognosis on, my wife was going to need to be my carer for the rest of my life on the medications I was on, so the marriage didn't really work out. And I found relief from my symptoms one day when I was left temporarily homeless after the marriage split up. I found relief from some black market cannabis I scored around the corner. And what struck me was, at that stage, all the medications I'd been on for years, nothing could help me with the crippling anxiety I was feeling at that stage in my life. That was in my chest, like a knee being driven into my chest for months on end. As soon as I had one little tiny puff of some locally sourced cannabis medication, all that sensation went away, the anxiety, the pain went away in my chest, my head cleared up. None of my medications could do anything close to that except to maybe put me asleep for 24 hours. And then it was at that point, I'd also just seen a documentary about two American veterans. One was on the normal psych drugs like I was, and his life was exactly where I was at. It was pretty bad, by himself, dark. And the other guy was taking cannabis medications against the guidelines of the VA in America, but his life was totally different, polar opposite. He was re-engaging in society, he was functioning, he still had his issues and everything, but he'd even managed to form another relationship, have a partner and a kid and everything. He was like living the dream. And I was like, wow, this is really profound, this difference between being medicated properly and being medicated incorrectly, I guess you could say. So from that, I started fighting for policy change within the Australian government, the Australian Department of Veterans Affairs, for them to include medicinal cannabis as an approved medication for veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injury. The reason for that is everyone in Australia has approval to use this medication for their mental health, except veterans under the care of the DVA. They will not approve this for various reasons. So I started campaigning for change. I didn't want what happened to me and my family to happen to any more veterans and their families. That's me.
Let's back it up a little bit. As you're transitioning out of the service, were you told about PTSD and what treatment options that you possibly could have had? Was that ever a conversation?
Not that I recall. I was getting counseling for PTSD symptoms while I was still in. And it wasn't something that was really discussed because they were still trying to redeploy me overseas. They're trying to send me to Afghanistan and a couple other spots. I knew something was wrong with me. My wife at the time knew something was wrong with me. So there wasn't really a conversation about treating this condition as more than just having a counseling session once a week, due to the fact they wanted to make me still deployable.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I have a friend that from high school that I knew who, somewhat similar to you, fresh out, a little bit older, fresh out of high school, signed up, disappeared into the military, right? And moved his way up into the military. And long story short, with him, he was a Navy SEAL sniper. And he would literally just disappear off the face of the earth. He couldn't tell you where he was going, what he was doing, when he would be back, nothing. And each time he reappeared, he was a little bit different. Like, he wasn't the guy that I grew up with in high school, in the sense that, his nickname was Bubba, right? Like, he was just this like big, kind of heavy set, funny, kind of goofy guy that had this really, really good soul, really good heart to him. And like I said, I do wonder on some level, because as a friend, I kind of saw it, like just how he reacted to things. He was almost like a different person. And I wondered if he ever, because like you're saying, it was really all, they just kept wanting to redeploying. And so he experienced somewhat the same as what you did. It was a very loose conversation around counseling. And that was kind of it. As you were saying there that, okay, so you're out of the service, and your day-to-day reality, you're at the very least, you're overmedicated. What does that do to your sense of identity?
Well, it doesn't really help it as a start. A sense of identity, I guess most countries would be similar. When you meet someone, it's what's your name, what do you do? So when you temporary or whatever no longer have a label for what you do, your sense of identity does seem to fade out of existence a bit. So being in an over-medicated state, I guess in a sense it's soul destroying. It just destroys who you are, your sense of identity, your purpose, your self-confidence.
Before we really start to dive into the campaign there, what would you say, while you're going through all of this, what would you say some of like the hardest side effects that you're experiencing while you're, again, because you're following doctor's orders, you're taking the medication that you've been prescribed, you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing by the book, quote unquote. What were some of the hardest side effects to live with while you're going through that?
Good question. Some of the hardest side effects is when the medication gets changed from one medication to another, or when the dosage is increased or decreased. Decreasing, especially for the antipsychotics. From my own experience and other veterans, first responders I know who have gone through similar, is it's shocking. How do I put it in words? Part of your body and your brain is reliving all the trauma that's stored in there, that's unprocessed, that the psych meds are just masking symptoms of. Other bits of your body's having reactions to medication changes, new medications, old medications, dosages increasing, decreasing. You can get anything from brain zaps to convulsions, random pain, sore internal organs, a host of things. You can't think straight. Your brain's all just mushed up on these chemicals. I sometimes term it like a chemical lobotomization.
Yeah, fair enough. That's probably a very good, accurate description. So let's fast forward. You've now we've discussed the difference between black market and green market, but now you've experienced some black market. And like you said a little earlier, it was, dare I say, a game changer, because all of a sudden you felt like your symptoms were not being masked, but were actually kind of being dealt with. So where did you go from there, I guess, would be the first question. You've had some cannabis, you're like, hey man, this is kind of working for me. What was your next step?
My next step when that happened was I continued for a couple of weeks. At that stage, I was seeing my treating psychiatrist, psychologist, and GP weekly, just to try and keep on top of everything. The next step was a few weeks later, they noticed I was better. I was more stable. And I hadn't said anything to them about it. And they asked me, and I was straight up front, told them what I was doing and why I did it. I saw that documentary of the 2 American Iraq veterans, the vast difference. I'd tried it, what I experienced, the anxiety and everything, and that disappearing and the brain clearing up like a magic. And they told me, do not stop. They said, this is the best we've ever seen you in 8 years of treatment. We've got whatever you're doing, don't stop, keep doing it. And that then started and formed into my first application to the DVA for subsidized medicinal cannabis for my PTSD condition. That was filled out with the backing and the approval of my treating long-term psychologist.
First of all, I love the fact that it's like your medical team around you that are like, oh, Derek, what's going on? Something has changed. Did you get a puppy? Talk to us. What's going on? And, again, I always tell people that you need to be honest with your healthcare providers. You need to have the conversations with them. And I love hearing that you owned it. You were like, yep, this is what I'm doing. And they came back and were like, yeah, we support this. So you said it was it wasn't your GP, it was your
psychiatrist and psychologist.
Yeah, that helped you apply. So how did that go?
Well, we filled in the application, sent it off, and we got rejected, of course, because Veterans Affairs have a blanket policy of no medicinal cannabis for any mental health condition, because the DVA's expert advisors are advising them that there's not enough evidence to show it's safe or that it works, despite so much.
Okay, so you get knocked back. Do you apply again? Do you kind of recraft your letter? What was your next step? Or was that rejection basically where you turned around and was like, no, we're gonna kick this up and I'm gonna start the No More Zombies veteran campaign?
Yeah, well, the campaign started after that letter in terms of, I think that was around the December I applied, and which was also around the time of the DVA had approved medicinal cannabis for PTSD and traumatic brain injury for a short time, and then they suddenly took it away without any explanation, which was the month before I applied for the first time. So my application, the first one was rejected, and all subsequent ones have been rejected since. And after that first one, about 6 months later, I went out bush by myself just to get away from everything, and I took my supply of illegal medication. I was at a remote spot, and some police came by to check on someone who was discharging a rifle there about a week or two previously, a remote spot. And obviously it wasn't me, I'd only just got there the afternoon before. And they asked me if I had any contraband or anything I shouldn't have on me. And I was like, yeah, I do. So I had to go to court, and due to the amount because I was just planning on running away for a while, I didn't really know what to do. So I took a fair bit with me. It was all nice organic stuff. And yeah, I had to go to court, face a magistrate, a judge, and I was facing a maximum sentence of 10 years jail. And so from that, a lovely lady here in Australia called Lucy Haslam, who introduced medicinal cannabis into Australia, she fought for it due to her son, Dan. I went to Lucy, Veterans Affairs, no one helped me except Lucy. She organised some compassionate use of medicinal cannabis through a company, and she organised a lawyer, representation for court. When it came to court, the magistrate saw what was happening. He dismissed all charges and ordered me to continue taking my medicinal cannabis medication.
Lucy is a force.
Oh yeah, she's awesome.
She's an absolute force. Okay, so we're on the other side. Things are looking slightly better. Let's go back to the campaign. You've seen the other side. You know that this is something that can help you. Was the campaign more born out of a need to get the word out, to start having the conversations?
Well, I guess the campaign, in terms of getting the word out, educating people on this medication, trying to start dialogues. The big one, I guess, was also working towards changing this Veterans Affairs policy of no medicinal cannabis for any mental health condition. That's a pretty big one there, because like last year we had the Royal Commission in Australia, the Royal Commission into Defence and Veteran Suicide. And it's not really discussed, but in that, even the Royal Commission found evidence that the overuse of psych meds is worsening veterans' health outcomes and increasing the veteran suicide rate. But no one really wants to get into it. There's all this stigma about this plant-based medicine.
Because they keep going back to the whole research thing and needing more research and more, I guess, again, scientific studies and that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Randomized, double-blind, gold placebo studies, et cetera, et cetera.
How do you have conversations with people, though, that push back with you, that are skeptical and immediately like, well, the science isn't there?
Oh, it's easy to push back and talk to people about it. Because the science is there. The science is overwhelming. I think it's been over 30,000 papers written studying medicinal cannabis's interactions and compounds since 2016. There's a plethora of information and studies out there showing what it does, how it works. The main one is what people don't understand, and it's something that's not taught in any medical school. It's not taught to paramedics or anything, is the endocannabinoid system. Once you have an understanding of your body's endocannabinoid system, you understand how the compounds in medicinal cannabis work, how they interact with the body. And also, you can also see things that don't help the endocannabinoid system, that seem to stifle its ability to look after the human body.
How would you explain the ECS to a veteran who's like never even heard of it at all?
Well, I get excited when I talk about the ECS or the endocannabinoid system, because who doesn't love it? It is the most amazing, important system in our body. It links we have doctors and specialists for all our body organs. We have a heart specialist, we've got a brain specialist, we've got whatever. And that's great that there's specialists for all those important organs. But there's one system that ties all those in together that makes them work properly. It's called the endocannabinoid system, or the ECS. It's a signaling system. It does things like it maintains your internal body temperature. It maintains your body's pH value. It regulates physical and emotional health, links everything together to make it work properly. How do you explain the ECS? The body can't function without it.
It's so vital for homeostasis, is what I tell people. I was like, if you didn't have an ECS, your body would never be in homeostasis. It would constantly be fighting to get back there.
Yep.
What are some of the misconceptions around medicinal cannabis that you find most frustrating?
Misconceptions are people's ignorance, which is, from my point of view, is born out of 100 years of prohibition against this plant. Biggest misconceptions is, it's a gateway drug. It's going to lead to heroin use, crystal meth use, when in reality, alcohol and tobacco, the legal drugs, are gateway drugs. Most people use cannabis as an exit drug. Misconceptions with cannabis include psychosis, the issue of psychosis that seems to come out in our media in Australia now and again. The psychosis issue itself is interesting. I delve into all the studies. Like, I've gone into all the DVA's top research advisors for medicinal cannabis, into all the medicinal cannabis policies and what studies they base their stance on. And all of them directly, indirectly backdate to a 1987 study of 45,000 Swedish conscripts over 15 years that made a link that heavy cannabis use causes psychosis or can lead to psychosis. Now, the following year, the ECS was discovered. So this issue of psychosis that's so prevalent in the media and, mainstream people who are so-called experts in medicinal cannabis, well, these experts have no knowledge or training in the endocannabinoid system, and they base their psychosis issue on an old, outdated study that's almost 40 years old. So yeah, it's there's a few things there with it.
I do have that conversation with a lot of people about the psychosis. And one of the things that I like to point out is that now that we have access to medicinal cannabis and we're having more conversations with healthcare professionals, yes, we as the patient feel more comfortable when we go somewhere and have symptoms to admit that we've consumed cannabis, right? Whereas back however many years ago, you would have never said to if you went to the ER and your heart was racing or whatever it was, no way you told them you smoked pot. No way. You kept that to yourself. Whereas now you're like, just so you know, I'm on medicinal cannabis, blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of unreal, the people that I talk to who will tell you straight up the second they say that they consume medicinal cannabis, oh, the doctor changed and immediately was like, oh, it's the cannabis. That's why you're blah, blah, blah. It's the cannabis.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to blame it on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I'm not saying that there's not, correlation doesn't necessarily mean causation, right? It's like I said, I think it's just one of those things that because we're more comfortable with saying that we consume as a patient when we go in and we have these conversations, I think it is easy because there are a lot of, I hate to say it, a lot of doctors that are ignorant to the effects of medicinal cannabis and how it interacts with the ECS and things like that, that it is easy for them to shut you down and be like, oh, you're too high for your own good.
Oh, yeah. And that's a lack of education. I mean, I'm obviously not a doctor or anything like that. I'm no expert. I'm only going off my own observations. But doctors seem to get their advice on what to give patients based on what the pharmaceutical industry reps sort of advise them on what medications to use out of their stock of, pharmaceutical companies are the ones that seem to be able to, that have the money to do the studies into their own products. Yeah, I don't know, it seems that seems to be money made from keeping people unhealthy.
How do you think things would be different if we treated medicinal cannabis as like a frontline first option as opposed to, oh, Johnny, how about we give you some Zoloft? Or, oh, Johnny, how about we give you some Percocets or whatever it is? Like, how, from your experience and what you went through with the military and, again, fighting with DVA and whatnot, how different would that be if we just embrace medicinal cannabis as a frontline medication?
I think it'd be life-changing for a lot of people individually. And I think the flow-on effect would be an improvement in our society in terms of we'd have people who are functioning better, who are able to contribute back to their families, able to look after themselves, their families, integrate, be a better worker, all those sort of things. The flip side with the current first-line medications for these conditions, the medications turn you into a medicated zombie, hence the name of this campaign, No More Zombie Veterans. Everyone who gets hooked on these medications ends up saying the same thing, and the medications turn me into a zombie. It wasn't me. So changing medication and having medicinal cannabis as a first-line option instead of pharmaceuticals, I believe it'd be a much different space we'd be looking at.
Do you think that's like a mind shift that needs to come kind of from within the veteran community?
I know there's opposition in the veteran community to using medicinal cannabis as a medication. And I think part of that is due to when you're in the military, you're allowed to use alcohol. You're encouraged to use alcohol. If you use any illicit substance, you risk getting chucked in a military prison, which is worse than a civilian prison.
Do you think the acceptance of medicinal cannabis is something that has to start within the veteran community? Do you think that that's something that, again, like yourself, you just need more people like you to stand up and be like, hey, this has made a difference for me. This has improved the quality of my life. Do you think that the movement will come from within the veteran community, or do you think it'll be something from outside that'll change that mind shift?
Yeah, definitely outside the veteran community. Public perception is what's going to change this in terms of how people perceive this plant, and also in terms of government policy. If there's enough of a public outcry in terms of this, then that's when politicians will start changing things to, they don't want to upset anything that's going to stop them getting re-elected into their positions. So yeah, pretty much it's public pressure, public opinion is what's going to drive this forward.
How would a listener get involved in the No More Zombies campaign? How would they get that bell and start ringing it louder for you?
Well, firstly, if any of your listeners would do that, I'd be so appreciative. That'd be super awesome. So I've started with the campaign of No More Zombie Veterans, being more active in social media. So people can follow us on the social medias, like us, share our stuff, get more people interested in showing this. So podcasts like this one and others we've been doing recently have all been made into TikTok shorts and all that. So if people go to the nomorezombieveteran.com website, which currently is getting rebuilt into a more professional looking thing than what I put together myself, there's links to the social media pages there. Other things people can do, we have an online signature petition with change.org. Encourage people to sign that. We're trying to get up to 35,000 signatures, so we're almost there. And then once we get to 35,000, of course, we've got to get more signatures, to help cover costs, there's a platform called Buy Me a Coffee, which people, if they have a few dollars spare and if they want to, they can put that in. That helps with paying for all the stuff of the campaign, from advertising materials, etc., etc. The good one people can do is learn about their own endocannabinoid system, ECS, and then you get an understanding of why medicinal cannabis works. And a very big one is for people to contact their local members of parliament, especially their federal members of parliament, and say, what the heck's going on? Change this now. You're getting veterans into a situation where they're getting arrested for trying to get healthy and get better. It's just dumb.
It is dumb. And I was just going to say, how do you balance hope there with the hard reality that a lot of veterans are still stuck in the system?
Yeah, balance. While managing my own condition and fighting on the behalf of all the other veterans in the same position in Australia and first responders, and having continual knockback by the government department that is there to look after your health and well-being. To balance that, I have had to learn to pace this, take my time, take time off, meditate a lot, yoga, a lot of breath work, healthy living, vitamins, supplements, anything so that I'm able to keep this campaign and lobbying stuff going, I guess.
It sounds like you've almost found a bit of purpose in your advocacy, and I love it, Derek. I really do. Have you had any small wins lately that you're celebrating?
Small wins I'm celebrating. This podcast we're on right now, talking with you. Podcast I had last week is a small victory and a win. And the week before, another podcast. All these are opportunities for me to engage with people to get the message out there more. I don't personally see any big wins coming from the government in terms of Department of Veterans Affairs, last time I spoke to them was March last year. So it's been over a year. They have technically ghosted me in this campaign. They don't want to reply or correspond in any way. So it's a big slap in the face in terms of a government department that's mandated to look after your health and well-being that doesn't want to. So I get small wins out of when I'm talking to just ordinary people I meet in the street, and we bring up this discussion, and I can see that after a few minutes of talking, their attitude has shifted and they can see what's actually going on. And you can see in the mindset, they become supportive. So knowing how quickly someone's opinion can get turned around on this subject once they've fed the facts is a massive win in itself. It gives me encouragement on a daily basis.
I love it. I love it. What kind of legacy are you hoping the campaign will leave behind?
Well, the legacy of the campaign will leave behind is getting this DVA policy changed. The current policy of no medicinal cannabis for any mental health condition due to being advised it's ineffective and there's not enough evidence, to change that so that medicinal cannabis is approved for use for veterans. In our current global situation, it seems that we're more likely than we have been in a fair while for some sort of conflict to happen. If that were to happen, there'd be conscription in countries, maybe including Australia. I have a 20-year-old son who, if he was conscripted, if we did all those things happening, he's a big, strapping, young, amazing dude. I'm sure they'd love to have him on board. And changing this policy of DVA would mean if all those things happened, if my son did go overseas, was fighting, whatever happened, that at least he wouldn't get stuck on psych meds when he gets home. He'd have an option of something that's going to actually work, that's going to help him and not worsen his condition. Or, like the Royal Commission found, link him more into suicide.
I love that so much. That is a very powerful way to bring this all home, right? It really is. Before I let you go, out of curiosity, as we're talking here, and again, I am regretting that I'm not doing video, but as we're sitting here talking, you have a glow to you and you look like you are just a happy individual. And if listeners were listening at the beginning, you were not in a good space a few years back. You went through a divorce, you were homeless, you were pumping meds that weren't working for you. What do you think is the biggest difference in your life now that you've embraced medicinal cannabis?
Biggest difference could be how medicinal cannabis has enabled, how it's been a platform for my physical and mental health to start repairing and stabilizing. The biggest thing medicinal cannabis use has done is, to stabilize my condition so that I can start getting better. 17 years of heavy psych meds. They did it's really stuffed my body in a lot of ways. And it didn't allow me to stabilize with PTSD condition. It didn't allow me to process things, or the psych meds, I mean. Using medicinal cannabis, being on medicinal cannabis as my platform for stability and wellness in my condition, it's just such a game changer.
I love it. I do. It is. I tell people all the time, you know what? Maybe it can't, quote unquote, fix things or make everybody better. It's not the golden, magical thing that's perfect for everybody. But the common theme, if you talk to enough people, will all say that when they consume it therapeutically, there's no doubt there that it improves the quality of their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and I think that's something worth fighting for. I think that's something worth having these conversations.
Oh, definitely. I mean, as a military veteran, you sign up, you go defend, fight for your country because you want to help. And getting banged up overseas, whatever happens, and then getting stuck in the psych med cycle and just losing yourself, losing your life and your family, losing your identity, but then having the ability to come back and, fight for something that matters. Just because we're out of the military doesn't mean that we don't still want to help our country, help our people, have that driving urge inside to fight for something good, to fight for change, to fight for what's right. And that's what this is.
Yeah, like I said, I love it because, again, heavily medicated on whatever, you admitted through your own thing that you felt like your wife had to take care of you. Whereas now you're out leading a charge and being a guiding light for other veterans to think to themselves, you know what? Maybe cannabis isn't that scary after all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Before I let you go, I like to always end a podcast with a golden nugget of information or a call to action. Derek, what is yours?
Well, once again, call to action, golden nugget of information. Look at what the endocannabinoid system is, research, educate yourself, make healthy decisions and choices, obviously in line with your doctor if it's anything medical. But yeah, question things. Don't just accept what's given to you and what's told to you. Look into it for your own benefit.
I love it. Stay curious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. And I have to say, I'm walking away from this one with a heavy heart, but also with a renewed sense of hope. Derek's story is more than just one veteran's experience. It's a wake-up call about what happens when people are overmedicated, overlooked, and let down by the very systems meant to support them. But it's also a testament to the power of plant medicine, lived experience, and the refusal to give up. Conversations like this are why I started the AusCannaPodcast. So if Derek's story resonated with you, or if you know somebody who needs to hear this, please share this episode. Or consider leaving a 5-star review. It's one of the best ways to help others find the show and keep these important discussions going. Until we meet again, friends, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to listen. And remember, greatness isn't always a matter of blood or title. It's what happens when somebody ordinary is given extraordinary support.